Columbus is like the Beatles of exploring.
Right.
Like they're just the ones you know. Or if you're like, what's the biggest rock band of all time? You'd be like, oh, the Beatles. That's just what Columbus is. Like people, they teach them to everybody. So everyone's like, oh, it's Columbus. Like I literally thought Columbus sailed here. Yeah. Saw it, went back and was like, oh, there's a whole land. And everyone's like, cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
America.
The way they teach you in school, there's never any violence. There's never any fucking torture or rape or slavery. They're just kind of like, so Columbus sailed here with 3 ships, the Pinta,
the Nina, and the Santa Maria.
And everyone's like, I know all of them. And they're like, then you know history.
Yeah, I'm like, I had an Aunt Nina.
Yeah. And they're like, right, Santa Maria. And everyone's like, yay. And then if you get 1492, they're like, that's it. You get an A in history.
Yeah. And then as you start to go on, as time goes on, you're like, oh wait, there was some evil shit that happened. And I remember I took a class and a college professor just casually threw it in. It was like, yeah, Columbus is one of the first people to experiment with biological warfare. And I was like, huh? Yeah. It was like, yeah, he gave blankets filled with smallpox to Native Americans. And you're like, I was like, oh,
what?
Sister All Mary never told us that.
What about the ocean blue in 1492?
Yeah. I'm like, wait, so he killed I'm like, but they have vaccines, right? He's like, no, they killed half the population. But that's what we have to do for our country. I was like, oh.
Or for me, it's falling asleep at 33 to an episode of Ancient Aliens, smoking a joint and then waking up and they're like, Columbus raped most of the women. And you're like, what's up? You wake up and you're like, what's going on? Because you realize that he basically brought the Spaniards to be like, yo, grab some people. What are we doing?
Because that was like big business back then. And then, but it's interesting because in certain neighborhoods, like here, we're in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and this is like a pretty conservative neighborhood. I remember I have a friend, my big Ryan. He's a cop, lives in Bay Ridge. And I remember a couple of years ago when they were changing well, I guess they have now legally changed it to Indigenous Peoples Day, right? So it's not called Columbus Day, or it still is.
They say they celebrate both.
But in another city, it's just Indigenous peoples, or it's just Columbus.
Certain states and certain cities just recognize it as Columbus Day, and other cities and states recognize it as both, and some people just do Indigenous Peoples Day.
Got it.
That's so funny. It's like sexuality in this country, where there's still cities that are like man and woman, sanctity of marriage, and then there's some people who are like, listen, if you're bi, that's just what you are. If you want to be Columbus, if you want to be Indigenous, and there's other people that are like, honey, we're coming hot gay sex right here. It's Indigenous Peoples Day.
That's what it is.
Because there's what's the thing about Americans that ultimately is a weakness for us is we latch on to narratives, and anyone that tries to change that narrative, we're immediately like, you're attacking everything I love.
Right.
Where it's like, nah, not really. We're just trying to clarify some certain specific things.
Yeah, I think the problem is with looking back in history, things with Columbus, is you're going to find everybody was, in today's standards, a piece of shit back then. Everybody was doing what he was doing.
The dudes were wearing these hot wigs. Yeah. And just selling people into slavery. Yeah. And just fucking raping and pillaging.
Yeah, because look at how quick the world changes. And I remember the movie Waiting just came out on Netflix, and I've seen Waiting a bunch of times, but it just came out on Netflix, with Ryan Reynolds,
Justin Long. Yeah, it's a great cast.
Movie, Louis Guzman. But then the whole premise of the movie is if you get caught with looking at another employee's dick, they play a game looking at another guy's dick, they kick you in the ass for being a and it's that was a #1 comedy movie just 10, 15 years ago. And now, if you came to that premise, you'd get canceled just for trying to pitch that.
Dude, if you tried doing that at an Applebee's now, they'd be like, you're out.
You're out, dude.
We can't have you at the Bees.
We can't have you out. So imagine in 1492, hundreds of years ago, the things that they were doing, which were, they didn't realize that they were doing I mean, they probably did, but it was just business was business back then.
Yeah, dude,
and that's what it is. So it's if you want to go back and cancel everybody, it's guess what? It wasn't just old white explorers that were doing bad shit. Everybody, every human being was living a different life. With the way America is, now, even white people, it's interesting. Yannis read the article and then he told me about it, but it was fascinating that actually, we're all created equal. It's there's scientific proof now, they believe, that that's actually not true. Europeans and people from more northern countries come from a different strand of chimpanzee DNA than people more south. So it was like two slightly different, but actual different types of human beings. That's what they think. It's all early science, but the Northern European DNA, the one like that mostly white people are from, is like 10 times more vicious chimp than the Southern ones.
I would 100% believe that.
So that's why it's like a European settler coming in being vicious. This article was saying there's scientific evidence that potentially very early stages backs all that up. Where it's like white people are just more evil because of their DNA.
So
that's what they said.
White people are the pit bull of humans.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, if there's an unmanned white person that walks in, you go, what is he going to do?
Yeah.
What's he going to do?
Yeah, can you really trust him? I feel like, is he a rescue?
Is he going to snap? Yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know. And then a Rottweiler walks in, we're like, he's the problem. Yeah. Like, why? Because he's black? That's not a big deal.
He thinks like America's not innocent. That doesn't make me say I want to hate America, but it's just good to learn. But these things, like, there are these overcorrectness where it's like, really, now we're going to fight about Indigenous Peoples Day? It's like, just fucking shut up.
Kind of admit that there's blood on our hands, and that helps the whole situation. It's also like when you see a good marriage, like a really good marriage, and they have this honesty where they're like, yeah, she was a slut for like 10 years, and now we're great.
Now we're great.
And you're going like, nah, kind of fucking gets me going.
Yeah, she was like, what do you want me to do? I fucked this brother, and that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, whatever. We're different people now.
Kid's his.
Yeah, and you're like, I love her. God, I love her. But they just acknowledge a shared history where...
And that's what it is. It's like calling Indigenous Peoples Day or Columbus Day. That shouldn't be a fight. Like, that shouldn't be like, I'm taking a stand on one or the other. It's stupid. It's entitlement. It makes us feel like it made this. I don't know this year if you'll have such a stink about what it's going to be called, because now we're in a fucking pandemic.
Yeah, bigger
So
issues.
it's like, now it's like the same thing. It's like, now nobody cares. We were saying this last podcast, like, nobody cares about the straws anymore. Nobody cares if there's plastic being used on the ventilator that could strangle the turtle.
But that's kind of just the exact prime example of what all this shit is. It's like, I bet Native Americans don't really give a shit about the Indigenous Peoples Day as much as I'm not speaking for them, but I'm saying, like, look at the Dakota Pipeline. You look at dude, look at Sturgis this year. Sturgis happens in the Black Hills of South Dakota, which is Lakota Nation.
Okay.
That is still, that's like their most sacred land. And Sturgis is a part, and they had like 300,000 people without masks during COVID, just being like, whatever. And it was the protests of the natives that were there that were like, dude, fuck this.
Yeah.
Why are you guys coming in and just bringing that? You're doing it again.
Yeah.
You're doing the thing again.
Yeah.
Where you're bringing a disease in when we're telling you we don't want you here. And we're like, hold on. I got to see fucking Smash Mouth outside without a piece of libtard cloth on my face.
Yeah, it's like I might as well be wearing somebody's foreskin on my face.
If you just want to see history repeat itself, go read up about the Sioux Nation protesting Sturgis rally this year, the bike rally, because it's just a bunch of fucking fat people with hepatitis being like, I don't believe in that, and you're like, hey, you guys suck. You're the problem.
Yeah,
it's not like. You're doing the lead. I don't know, man. It just that bugged me, like reading that, because you're like, man, you guys are just doing the same thing.
It's the same thing.
But you're just acting like, but it's my rights. I go to Sturgis every year, and I watch my fat wife get gangbanged by the Hells Angels, and then I go home.
And I listen to Legion of Skanks.
Yeah, which shout out Legion of Skanks.
Shout out Legion of Skanks. But see, the whole reason why, because a lot of people are like, oh, we've never even met a Native American. Why do we care? That's on purpose. The United States government in the 19th century adopted a policy to isolate and concentrate Native Americans in places with few natural resources, far from contact with the developing U.S. economy, because they knew that their land that they were living on had all the shit, and they were like, let's just move them over here, and we'll, their new home, they'll forget about their old home, and they'll like their new home, and now they just all live on, for the most part, reservations, making Arizona iced tea. That's just what it is.
I've thought about this.
What makes you shit? Does anything make you shit as much as when you drink a fucking can of 99-cent Arizona iced tea?
Honestly, I'm too adapted to it.
It's just fine?
It's been a while until I found out how much sugar was actually in there, but I used to rip those green teas.
Oh, dude, I used to drink the raspberry iced teas and then just let it rip. I mean, shit my pants. It was crazy. Yeah.
I thought the green teas were healthy.
No.
I genuinely thought the Arizona green teas were. For 4 years of my life, I scientifically were like, yeah, this is like a healthy green tea. I'm like, I get in chamomile and zinc and stuff.
Do they have Arizona iced tea anymore? Do they make it, or I just don't look for it anymore?
No, they make it.
I guess because like once you grow up and you realize how much sugar is in, like your mind is always like, don't ever go near that. Like Mountain Dew. I'm like, did they stop making Mountain Dew? It's like, no, your brain just says you can't have that, so it's out. Yeah, when you're a kid, you're like, yeah.
No, but they got new flavors now, dude.
Of Mountain Dew?
Oh yeah, they got Baja Blast. You got fucking. Oh. You can get into it, dude. Got multiple flavors. But it's...
Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the last video. Don't forget to tell your friends, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.